What's going on, collectors? I just got wind of a heritage auction with a Fantastic Four CGC 9.6, and I just wanted to talk about this right away. I'm not even going to do the intro to the video. Let's just dive right in. So I did a video not too long ago called CGC Lying to Us, and that was about the 9.9 Giant Size X-Men that just came out, and there was a 9.8 Spider-Man 300 on there. And I went through the video and then went through the scans. I was like, are we sure about these grades? So this 9.6 Fantastic Four just showed up for auction, and right now it has 8 days left in the auction, and this book is going for, at the moment, $1 million.
$1 million.
That's right, Fantastic Four number 1, 9.6, $1 million. Now on the census there are 2 Fantastic Four number 1s at 9.6s, so this is not the only book that exists for this. There's no other higher graded books than this. But I just wanted to go through a few different things, go through these books, and I have a few comparison books to do. And my CGC Lying to Us video, that is on newer gradings. I did look at this book, and I'm going to show you guys some of the new books we're going to look at in this video. And you're going to see that these books are older graded books, but let's just do a little bit of comparisons here, because I don't feel it's a 9.6, but I mean, we'll see how that all plays out. So without further ado, let me just load up the few different auctions we have here. I wanted to start off here with the best of the best. So here is an X-Men number 1 CGC 9.8. And you'll see that this book here sold in 2012 for nearly $500,000. Obviously that book would sell for a lot more now, but I have a lot of the certs up for this. You'll see that this book here was graded in 2004. There are no grader notes available to go from it. So if we look at it though and zoom into this guy, again this is a 9.8. Just immediately I was noticing right on the top corner, like, that's a pretty big blemish for a 9.8. And then obviously it's not like that's a good edge. I can scroll down, and obviously the scan is not the greatest either. This is a scan from a decade ago, but the book itself does look pretty clean. There's a little bit of potential wear. It's hard to tell because of the scan and the way the slab's done. That is not a sharp corner either, and as we go up the spine, you'll see everything else is pretty clean on the book. So there's nothing that really stands out at all, but that corner there really, that hurts me to see that. And then if we go to the back of the book here, you'll see that it's pretty clean as well. The edging here, that's again, if we flip it to the other side, that edge is the blunted edge. But scroll down, the staples look pretty clean. The color markings, it's hard to say if that's from the slabbing or not, but for the most part, that's a clean staple. Like, everything's pretty good. Edge is not too sharp there. That seems all right. Like, this is a pretty good close candidate to a 9.8. I would say this is probably a 9.8 because I know 9.8s are allowed to have one defect, so to speak, and this 9.8 here, yeah, I guess this top corner is allowable to go for a 9.8. So if this is the only major defect that there is, then sure, whatever, that's fine. There was also that's a 9.8. So now let's jump down to a 9.6. So Comic Connect here had an X-Men number 1 at a 9.6 sell in 2022 for $800,000 here. And I checked the CGC notes for that. Back cover, light shadow, spine, light stress lines, whole book, small wear on all corners. So the difference of a 9.8 where it didn't have any notes but the obvious damage was there versus a 9.6, there's a handful of different little issues. And you'll also notice that this grading was done in 2010, so this is 6 years later. Actually, that last book was I don't know time, that was 20 years ago that last X-Men one was graded, so this is 10 years earlier. And so if we look at this, they don't have as high-res scans as CGC or as Heritage Auctions, but you'll notice that, there's some light wearing here. That edge looks pretty darn sharp. A little bit of edge wear there. And the ticks you can't really see on the sides. The back there is even more difficult to tell. There's supposed to be a shadow here. The scan itself is kind of poor, so I really can't tell Like, is this naturally this dark? I don't know. But this book here is a 9.6. At face value, I don't see anything too crazy about this. If anything, this should be the 9.8, maybe. It's tough to say. This book doesn't look too bad. And then let's look at another 9.6 for a little bit more of a modern book. This is a Hulk 181 that sold in 2020. There's tons of 9.6s on the census for Hulk 181s, but this is a Hulk 181 First Wolverine. This sold in 2020 for $19,000. The census on this here is that there's a scratch on the L at the logo, very light crease at the top, very light spine stress, very light wear, and this book was graded in 2020 as well. So this Hulk 181 graded and sold within the same year. And you'll notice that the notes were a little bit more, there were more notes for a 9.6 to have defects than the 9.8s in the previous 9.6 before that. And again, let's look at this book here. Zooming in, you'll see there's your edge corner. You also see there's the scratch on the L that it mentioned at the top. If we go zoom in a little bit closer, the edging does look a little busted there. There's a little bit of color break. We scroll down, everything seems kind of sharp. I think I remember seeing a nick somewhere around here, or maybe that's the next book we're gonna look at. This edging is okay. The bottom seems all right, and then the spine has the odd little light crease there on it, but nothing too dramatic. This 9.6, this, I can't tell if this is a blemish from the case or not. It probably is, so they didn't note it, and that's pretty obvious. So this is equivalent, I would say, to the 9.8 that we saw on the X-Men. So that on the X-Men 1. So this is, the same kind of damage, and then we have the scratch on the L. And then if we look at the back of this book here, we'll see that it is pretty decent as well. So I'll zoom in there. So top edge is okay. It seems there's maybe a little bit of a shadow there, but it's tough again with the scan. A little bit of a blunted edge, whichever. Staples are good. Everything down the edge here is fine. The bottom there is okay. Everything else seems to be pretty hunky-dory with this. People still say hunky-dory, right? So this Hulk 9.6 seems, I guess, legitimate. We're going ahead roughly another 14 years from that X-Men 9.8 that had equivalent damage, and this is kind of a 9.6, I guess, because that L, so there's two nicks on it. Sure, whatever. Now let's get, and just for the census, by the way, so this Hulk 181, if we look at the total of the 9.6s, there's 377 of them. So I just picked one because they go through all the 9.6s and say, hey, whatever. So 377 9.6s, there's 146 9.8s and 199. So there's a lot of these books that are out there. So to be kind of equivalent, same damage as the X-Men 1 again, whatever may be. But now we have a Fantastic Four #1 9.6. There's two of these that are out there. Currently $1 million. Cue Dr. Evil.
$1 million.
And this book here was graded back in 2011. So notice that there. And the grader's notes. A little bit more explanation to them than the Hulk and definitely those X-Men. So there's a crease at the top left of the back of cover, smudge at the top of front of cover, spine stress lines, light finger bends right center of front cover, and small scuff top of back cover. So that's a lot of damage.
That's a lot of damage.
And this, again, was graded in 2011, and here we are in 2024 selling this book. So let's take a closer look at the book here. And a 9.6, it's allowed to have some defects. So let's just zoom in here and really focus on this. Because this edge here, much like the X-Men, this is not nearly as bad as the Hulk and X-Men, but, there's obviously a little bit of stress there. And as we follow along the top of the book, I can't tell if this is just a shard from the casing. There's a little bit of a damage at the top. I can't zoom in any further than where we are. And then you'll notice that the corner is also blunted, and when we see the back of the book, well, this will show more prominently. As we go down, you'll see that there is a nick right there out of the dude standing, which is a pretty, I would say, make it for sure a 9.6. If like that's a pretty noticeable piece of damage, and there's a little bit of damage just as you go into his knee there. I mean, maybe I'm being too critical on it, but that's a pretty noticeable gouge there. And you know, this edge is not good, or is not perfect by any means, so this whole edge is kind of interesting, we'll put it that way. And then we have at the bottom, this edging is a little chewed up, and as we continue down, you'll see the corner isn't blunted as bad. It's pretty decent. Staples there's a little bit of wear coming out from the bottom there, and as we go up, again, I can't tell if that's from the case or not, so we'll give the book the benefit of the doubt. Going up a little bit, staple kind of bends in a little bit, so it's not like the perfect book. That's, I guess, forgivable, and that we get us back to the top corner. But now let's look at the back of this $9.6 million book. And as we zoom in again, look at this. This is a pretty decent roll. I mean, I wouldn't say this is a spine roll, but this book is not perfect by any means. And I would argue this would knock it out of the category of a 9.6. And again, you want to buy the book, not the grade. But when you get to books that are graded like this, I don't understand it, because you're now paying for the label. You're not paying for the book, because this is not a 9.6 in my eyes already, and we still have to look at the rest of the book. And so as we go through, there's nothing any like too dramatic. That's a nice corner there at the top. As we go down, everything else seems to be pretty clean. That edge there is a little blunted. Go to the bottom here, you know, you'll see that the pages aren't lined up, and this is part of that roll that gets more prominent as we get closer to the top of the book. And so again, there we are at the top. So yeah, this is a 9.6, the CGC, but it's also the book that we've watched that has the most notes on it, and also the book that I would say has the most damage on it. That should knock it out of the category of being a 9.6. Now, again, my video from before, CGC lying to us, that was a video based on new grades. This book here was graded in 2011. So here, if we look at it again, 2011, and all those notes, and top scuff, a back cover. So yeah, I didn't actually point that out, because I initially thought when I saw this, I'm like, this has to be the case, right? But this weird line here as well, or maybe they're referring to this. It's not entirely sure. Like, that comes off almost like a pseudo Newton ring, but this guy here is really like, so that exists too, and this is a 9.6. So what? Light finger bends on the right center of front cover. Did I even go over that too? The right center of front cover. Light finger bends, center of front cover. They don't really show up if they do. The light finger bends don't really show up if they do. But, I mean, it is still a gorgeous Jack Kirby piece of art. That's absolutely correct. But is this a 9.6? And so this isn't so much for me to say, hey, is CGC making stuff up? No, this is legitimate. Yeah, if this is a 9.6 and this was a 9.6 back in 2011 when it was graded, then so be it. But if I was buying this book, I would expect a 9.6 to look a lot better than what it is. And I'm actually paying $1 million at this moment for the label of it. Because, again, in my eyes, this is not a 9.6. So that's all I'm going to say about this. This auction goes on for another 8 days, so we still have a lot more of this book to grow if it's going to be bidded on anymore. I'll definitely be keeping my eyes peeled on this. And yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and see you guys in the next video.